Are you kidding me?
Me being here is changing the world already.
I don't care if I'm drafted 1, 5, 72, or the last pick.
I've never seen a following like we've seen for Saquon Barkley.
For some of these elite players, there's no question that they can perform at 18 years old. I think the question for the league is, are we better off intersecting with them a little bit younger?
And the Oscar goes to...
As basketball players, we're really supposed to shut up and dribble.
You want to get out. Let me figure out some flight options.
We dedicate this award to our fearless whistleblower who now lives in grave danger.
Did you save his life?
I believe so, yes.
What you see may change your perception of any sporting event. Get this, shoot this.
Welcome to Outside on the Line. I'm Bob Lee. Ahead, we're off to the NFL Combine, where they're watching players and waiting on word of Roger meeting today with Jerry. But our big story today on this first Monday in March in Studio Z is the NBA preparing to do what the NCAA is too unwieldy or unwilling to do, which is meaningfully address the mess that is youth and college basketball and equity for players. Check the calendar. It is that time of the year.
Gotta go. Jones for the win.
That's the joy of March. Radford's Carlik Jones with a buzzer beater to lift his team into the NCAA tournament. That's a tournament whose last 2 television agreements total $20 billion through 2032. This is a sport where a federal indictment has begun to expose the alleged rogue underside, long suspected to exist. This chapter claiming the job of Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino, who continues to assert he did nothing wrong, and he is not charged. He's merely referenced in the document. ESPN is reporting that Arizona coach Sean Miller is heard on an FBI wiretap discussing a $100,000 payment for a leading recruit. Miller remains the coach of the Wildcats, and he specifically denies that report. Now, from the NBA, and remember, the one and done rule is an NBA labor agreement stipulation. It's not an NCAA rule. From the NBA, the issue of fairness for players, leading the head coach of the Pistons, Stan Van Gundy, to label that one and done rule as, quote, racist, that nobody hyperventilates about kids jumping from high school directly to minor league hockey or baseball. From the top of the NBA pyramid comes the real statement to move the conversation from the man who predates one and done on what he calls a corrupt NCAA.
NCAA is corrupt. We know that. I'm sorry. It's going to make headlines, but it's corrupt. I don't know if there's any fixing the NCAA. I don't think it is. I think it's what's been going on for many years. I don't know how you can fix it. I don't see how you can fix it.
The NCAA has a commission chaired by Condoleezza Rice, which expects to report in April about needed reforms in college basketball. The NBA has a commissioner named Adam Silver, who is in the midst of formulating changes in his league's approach. And watching him each step of the way, I'm Brian Windhorst. His piece on ESPN.com is entitled, Goodbye, One and Done. Wendy joins us on the phone because of technical difficulties. One and done, on its deathbed?
Yeah, Bob, and it's not just going to be the way it was in early 2000s, where kids could just, if they wanted to, declare for the draft. This is going to be a comprehensive plan that the NBA has been working on for months, and they're going to get involved with elite teenagers, and I don't just mean 18-year-olds. They want to be able to have influence on 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, so that they can work with them and prepare them what it's like to play basketball at a high level. That includes coaching, yes, but also fitness, recovery, life skills, off-court concerns and responsibilities. They want to get their hands on the system that they think is broken, not just college basketball, but also the AAU system. And at least for the elite players that they are going to work with USA Basketball and the Players Union to identify, they're going to try to get involved with their lives when they're teenagers.
Some of this may involve a bit of a cultural shift to have the NBA reaching down to the beginning years of high school.
Absolutely. And this is something that they know that there's going to be some trial and error. They know that they're not going to have it all figured out. But frankly, Bob, and when I talk to leaders from the league, they say the following. We are tired of leading from behind. We are the ones who are responsible here. We see an opportunity and a responsibility to move in right now and try to heal this issue. There are going to be great advantages for the league if they can pull this off. They are going to be able to potentially help bring a lot of notoriety to players that they may be able to profit off of through media rights when they're still in high school. But they also hope that they will be able to bring a lot of the corruption out of the game and give high schoolers who are elite a chance to be better successful when they go into professional basketball, whether that's in the G League or that's in the NBA.
Of course, the cynic would say no good deed goes unpunished. They have, I know, looked at, and Adam Silver and his folks have looked at, as you've written online, the European model of sports academies. Where does that stand?
Yeah, Bob, they looked at this pretty hard, and there was a time where people in the league thought they were going to do this, actually have basically brick-and-mortar structures where they educated and taught basketball year-round to this group of kids. But they were concerned about unintended consequences, so they've decided to step back from that, and instead I think they're going to focus on having contact with these players when they're in their summers, away from their high schools. They're not ready to go there. But down the line, if this process works, no one's ruling that out as potentially moving more towards a European-style model where the league develops players and matures them into the NBA.
Well, it's clear that change is coming in the NBA, as you report, and Adam Silver looking to take leadership on this. Brian, read him online. Thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you.
Now to the NFL Combine. Indianapolis, it's 1,100 miles from Palm Beach, Florida, and that is where later today Jerry Jones will have his hearing with Commissioner Roger Goodell over the attempt by the NFL to exact over $2 million in legal fees from the Cowboys owner. Jones' support of Ezekiel Elliott in that 21-month-long investigation/legal battle. That's part of the reason Jones has been called out of the carpet. There's also Jones' attempt to hold up Goodell's contract extension, where Goodell threatened but did not go through with legal action, but in the course of which, according to our Don Van Etta and Seth Wickersham, Jones told the commissioner, referencing Deflategate, quote, "I'm going to come after you with everything I have. If you think Bob Kraft came after you hard, Bob Kraft is a expletive compared to what I'm going to do." Happy to tell you there's no such talk from my next two very agreeable guests in Indianapolis, Chris Mortensen, NFL insider, NFL analyst Louis Riddick. But more, they're having their sit today in Florida. What's more important here, some quality of mercy from Goodell, unlikely perhaps, or laying the law down? Is that more likely?
Well, Goodell ran his 40 in the New York.
We'll come to that.
We'll
come to that.
Okay, you'll come to that. I don't want to ruin that spoiler there. But listen, this is about the lawyers. And the contention here really is the threat that Jerry Jones made to sue members of that compensation committee chaired by Arthur Blank and the other members of it because of Goodell's contract. And the league is contending that legal threat alone caused them to get legally prepared in case Jones followed through on that threat. And I don't know what these lawyers charge hourly, but I know they're winning on this one. And Jerry Jones will probably have to pay something, but he doesn't believe that financially supporting Ezekiel Elliott is a real fact in this case. That was done by the NFL Players Association.
Louis, your sense, and speaking to people around the league, has Jones's profile plateaued, or is it waning even after all of this?
Well, listen, Jerry's always been a guy who ultimately people will end up enjoying interacting with when they see him. But even when he went into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there were some who kind of didn't like it because Jerry rubs people the wrong way sometimes. In terms of his power, I don't know. He's very persuasive. He's a persuasive businessman. He did get some victories in this battle against Goodell. The power of the league office has been diminished. Whether the power of Goodell is diminished, we'll find out. All
right. Louis, I want to ask you about Shaquem Griffin, the Central Florida linebacker, a young man who basically is playing linebacker, has tested out incredibly, has one hand. He's just captured America's imagination. Earlier today on SportsCenter, he spoke about the way he has approached this combine.
I was never a person who took things for granted, so when I had the opportunity to be here at the combine, I made sure I took full advantage. Instead of me just creeping in the door, I just knocked the whole door down.
He has knocked the door down, Louis. He ran a 4.38. That's the best 40 for a linebacker in better than a decade. Can he play? And if he can play, will someone take him in this league?
Well, as far as positionally, he's probably going to play a hybrid type of position. He'll play a 3-4 outside backer, preferably on the left side, so his right hand can be used as his inside hand to really ward off offensive linemen and running backs in this league, because you can't really do anything at that position unless you can defend yourself. That would put him in the best position to succeed. He could play from a stack position, meaning in a 4-3 defense, play a Will or Mike linebacker, but that's not ideally what he will do. He will make a lot of noise playing special teams as a 4-phase guy, running down on kickoff, punt return, kickoff return, because that's where a guy with his speed and his run hit capability, meaning as fast as he can run when he hits into you, look, he blows stuff up. He's gonna provide some value. As far as where he gets picked, that's a good question. I mean, there's going to be a lot of debate about that because of the fact that he's working with some limitations, and you have to be able to use your hands, especially down in the box where he's going to play. But because of how good of a kid he is, because of how good of an athlete he is, and how fast he is, your value starts to rise. So now it becomes a guessing game as to trying to figure out, if you're one GM, how are the other 31 GMs valuing him so you can pay the right price for him, and that all works in his favor.
He'll be an incredible storyline come draft day. All right, Lewis, I want to talk to you about the quality of scouting reports. The topic is Saquon Barkley, running back, Penn State. A couple of these hit the blogosphere over the weekend. After his last drill, one coach said, "I thought he was going to put on a cape and fly out of there," from an unidentified draft evaluator. And Mike Freeman at Bleacher Report talking to a coach who said, "I would punch myself in the nether region many, many times to be able to draft him." Any scouting report like that ever hit your desk about anybody? It's bound to get your attention if it did.
Well, I've never read any that actually said that, but I'll tell you, I've been in some draft meetings now where some sentiments like that have been echoed. I remember back in Washington in 2004 when we were drafting Sean Taylor, there were many people who were kind of saying some of the same things about getting a chance to put their hands on Sean Taylor. I was one of them. Saquon Barkley, look, it is what it is, Bob, to say the least. I mean, he is a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal runner of the football, a phenomenal catcher of the football, a phenomenal return man, and a phenomenal teammate and person.
Wow.
So what else do you want? I mean, You can sit here and you can try and poke holes in it and say, well, he had some plays behind the line of scrimmage where he wasn't able to make people miss. So what? He's going, and he may go one. He'll definitely go two, in my opinion.
I'm getting Cannon out of the segment. I've got 5.41 seconds more to show you Roger Goodell running the 40-yard dash today at NFL headquarters. He still couldn't beat Tom Brady's time, but we put him up there, actually beating Orlando Brown Jr. Do we have that tape? I promise you it occurred. Go to the internet and find it. It's out there somewhere. I promise. I try not to tell untruths here. Lewis and Chris. Thanks, guys. And next, a brand new Oscar winner who sat right here and described how he saved a man's life.
Outside the Lines is brought to you by Corona Extra. Find your beach.
Here's some other stuff that matters. Suspended Raiders linebacker Aldon Smith has checked himself into rehab. That's according to TMZ Sports. Smith's fiancée confirmed she was the victim in the domestic violence incident on Saturday, for which San Francisco police had been searching for the former first-round pick. Smith has not played in the NFL since 2015. He's serving an indefinite suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. All Champions League and Europa League matches will observe a minute of silence this week to honor the late Davida Story. The 31-year-old Fiorentina captain was found dead in his hotel room Sunday following a suspected cardiac arrest. Funeral services will be held on Thursday in Florence. Oh, yeah. There's Boomer, Chris Berman, living the dream in Scottsdale, the honorary skipper of his beloved Giants yesterday against the Dodgers. His uniform number 83 is in 1983. That was the year Chris and his late wife Kathy were married. The Dodgers won the game, but a big W on the day for Boomer. Now, to the Oscars.
And the Oscar goes to Icarus, Brian Fogel and Dan Kogan.
For the documentary Icarus, it was directed by Brian Fogel, produced by Dan Kogan. It lays out with exacting detail the Russian state-sponsored sports doping program at the Sochi Olympics and goes back even earlier than that. It was exposed by a Russian scientist, that plot, whom Brian Fogel acknowledged in his acceptance remarks last night.
We dedicate this award to Dr. Gregory Rodchenkov, our fearless whistleblower who now lives in grave danger. We hope Icarus is a wake-up call, yes, about Russia, but more than that, about the importance of telling the truth, now more than ever.
Grigory Rodchenkov is presumably still in the United States in the witness protection program. And this is no small matter given the history of unexpected deaths among Russian scientists who've been associated with the doping program. 5 months ago, Brian Fogel sat with me right here in Studio Z to discuss the film Icarus and the man who blew the whistle on the Putin government. Why was Grigory in fear of his life?
Well, he was in fear of his life quite simply because